Have you ever noticed the quiet ones on social media? They have an account. They have a profile picture from 2017, maybe 3 posts. One of them is a sunset, one is a birthday, one is unclear. And then silence. Meanwhile, the rest of us are out here documenting coffee foam like it deserves a documentary series. So, what's going on? Why do some people scroll every day, but never post? It's not that they don't have lives. Trust me, some of the most interesting people I know haven't posted in years. They travel, they think deeply, they fall in love, they change careers, and somehow the internet hears nothing about it, which in today's world almost feels suspicious. Because we live in a time where visibility feels like proof of existence. If it's not posted, did it even happen? Social platforms subtly teach us that sharing equals participating, that presence equals relevance. But psychologically, not everyone experiences that pressure the same way. Research on social comparison theory shows that the more we publicly present ourselves, the more we open ourselves to evaluation. Every post becomes a tiny stage. Every photo invites silent scoring. Even something as simple as likes activates reward circuits in the brain linked to dopamine. Some people love that feedback loop, others find it exhausting. And here's something interesting. Studies on personality traits suggest that people higher in introversion or reflective thinking often prefer observation over expression. They process internally. They don't feel a natural urge to externalize every moment. For them, scrolling is like sitting in a cafe watching the world pass by. They're engaged, just not performing. And let's be honest, performing is tiring. Posting means choosing the right angle, the right caption, the right version of yourself. Even when we say we're being real, we're still selecting which parts of reality make the cut. Some people simply don't want to edit their lives for public consumption. But here's where it gets deeper. Silence online is not always about shyness. Sometimes it's about control. Because when you don't post, no one can define you through fragments. No one can reduce your life to squares on a grid. You remain undefined, and in a world obsessed with visibility, that kind of privacy is quietly powerful. But that's only the surface, because the real psychology of people who don't post isn't just about privacy. It's about identity. And identity is a fragile thing. The moment you post, you freeze a version of yourself in time. A caption becomes a statement, a photo becomes evidence, a phase becomes permanent, and the internet, as we know, has a very long memory. Some people instinctively resist that. Psychologists who study self-concept talk about something called self-complexity. It's the idea that some individuals experience themselves as layered, evolving, and difficult to summarize. For them, reducing life to a few images or clever lines feels uncomfortable. It's like trying to pour an ocean into a glass. So they don't. They live it instead, and there's something quietly rebellious about that. Because when you don't post, you remove yourself from the invisible scoreboard. You don't check who viewed your story. You don't wonder why one photo performed better than another. You don't measure your weekend against someone else's highlight reel. You just have a weekend. That might sound small. It isn't. Research has consistently shown that heavy social comparison online can impact mood and self-esteem. When you don't participate in the performance cycle, you also step out of part of that comparison loop. Of course, not posting doesn't automatically mean someone is enlightened or detached. Sometimes it's simpler than that. Sometimes they forget their password. Sometimes they open the app, start typing a caption, overthink it for 10 minutes, delete it, and decide it's not worth the energy. Relatable. But even that hesitation reveals something, a sensitivity to how they are perceived. And here's the twist. Many people who rarely post are deeply observant. They notice patterns. They read the tone of comments. They understand how quickly narratives shift. They see how online personas can become carefully managed brands. So they choose distance. Not because they have nothing to say, but because they don't feel the need to say it there. In a culture that equates broadcasting with confidence, quiet presence can look like invisibility, but often it's discernment. It's the ability to ask, who am I when no one is watching? And maybe that's the real question beneath all of this. Because when you strip away the filters, the captions, the curated milestones, what remains is a person living a life that does not need constant documentation to feel real. And maybe the people who don't post aren't missing out. Maybe they're experiencing something many of us forgot. The freedom of being unknown, not invisible, just unperformed.